I just saw The Sound of Music on its national tour when it stopped in San Diego, and honestly, I wasn't expecting it to be this magical. This musical premiered over 65 years ago, and it marked the last collaboration between Rodgers and Hammerstein. And somehow, it continues to captivate audiences generation after generation. And after seeing it for myself, I completely understand why. But before we get into that, if this is your first time here, my name is Joel. I create content about musicals and plays across Southern California, so if that's your thing, make sure to subscribe and check out my social media after this video. Now, I should probably make a confession. I'm 26-year-old. That means I didn't grow up with many golden age musicals. My musical theater interests usually lean towards modern productions, mega musicals era, and newer Broadway works. So while I knew The Sound of Music was a classic, I wasn't sure how it would feel in 2026. Would it feel dated? Would it feel slow? Would it be a piece of theater history that people admire more than they enjoy? But the answer surprised me, and actually not at all. For those unfamiliar with the story, The Sound of Music follows the Von Trapp family, an Austrian family living during the rise of the Nazi Germany. After the death of their mother, the family is assigned a new governess, Maria, a young woman whose love for music slowly transformed not only the children, but the entire household. Of course, that's a simplified version. Because underneath the music and charm, this is also a story about family, love, courage, and finding hope during uncertain times. And that's part of why it still resonates today. One of the first things that stood out to me was the production design. The sets are surprisingly simple by modern Broadway standards, but they are incredibly effective. Going in, I assumed a musical from this era would feature very limited scenery changes. Instead, I was pleasantly surprised by how many different locations the production creates throughout the evening. No giant LED walls, no elaborate projections, no attempts to make theater look like a movie, just practical stagecraft done exceptionally well. And honestly, that simplicity adds the show's charm. The production embraces exactly what it is, rather than trying to modernize itself unnecessarily. Another thing I love was how the staging handled such a large cast. Between Maria, Captain Von Trapp, the 7 children, and the supporting characters, there are often a lot of people on stage at the same time. Yet, the stage never feels crowded. The choreography and blocking are constantly guiding your attention exactly where it needs to be. Everyone has their own purpose within each scene, and somehow the production manages to give every character their moment without ever pulling focus from the story. The costumes also deserve recognition. They perfectly capture the period while adding another layer of visual storytelling. And Maria's costumes in particular are absolutely beautiful. Combined with the lighting design, they help create the warm and dreamlike atmosphere that defines so much this musical. And speaking of Maria, let's talk about the performances. For me, Maria completely stole the show. Cayleigh Capaldi steps into one of the most iconic roles in musical theater history, and that's no easy task. Julie Andrews' performance has become legendary, which means every actress who plays Maria is inevitably compared to her, and Mary Martin, of course. But what impressed me about Cayleigh is that she doesn't try to imitate Julie Andrews. Instead, she brings her own warmth, energy, and sincerity to the role. She captures the optimism and wonder that make Maria such a beloved character, while still making the performance feel uniquely her own. And that's exactly what these roles require. Now, let's talk about the writing. Before seeing this show, I genuinely wonder how a musical written decades ago will connect with a modern audience. Yet somehow Rodgers and Hammerstein created something that feels timeless. The pacing never drags, the story never loses momentum, and every major emotional beat lands exactly where it needs to. More importantly, the themes still feel relevant. Family, love, finding your voice, standing up for what's right, those ideas will never go out of style. And watching the audience around me made that obvious. The person I attended with spent most of the evening smiling. I've rarely seen someone so completely immersed in a show, especially her. And honestly, that reaction tells you everything you need to know. And now let's talk about the music. Because this score is iconic for a reason, songs like The Sound of Music, My Favorite Things, and Do Re Mi have become part of popular culture. Yes, the songwriting style comes from a different era, but once you're sitting in the theater, that doesn't matter. The song still works, they are memorable, and they are charming. And they continue to move the story forward beautifully. The orchestra sounded fantastic as well. Hearing these songs performed live reminded me why they've survived for many generations, and surprisingly, the song that stays stuck in my head the longest wasn't one of the biggest hits. It's 16 going on 17. There's something about that melody that's just incredibly catchy. It's youthful, romantic, and impossible to forget. As for my favorite moment of the show, without a question, it was a duet between Maria and Captain Von Trapp. If you've seen this musical, you probably know exactly which moment I'm talking about. Every time those two characters finally acknowledge their feelings for one another, I can't help but smile. The performances, the lighting, the music, it all comes together perfectly. It's one of those classic theater moments that reminds you why audiences have fallen in love with this show for decades. So, is The Sound of Music worth seeing? Absolutely. This musical has survived for generations for a reason. It's not just an important part of Broadway history. It's a genuinely entertaining, heartfelt, and beautifully crafted. Without Rodgers and Hammerstein, Broadway wouldn't be what it is today. Shows like Hamilton, Hadestown, and countless others owe something to the foundation built by productions like The Sound of Music. And beyond its historical significance, it's simply a wonderful night at the theater. It's family friendly, it's accessible, it's emotional, and it's fun. Whether you're a longtime theater fan or introducing someone to musical theater for the first time, this is a show that's easy to recommend. For me, The Sound of Music earns 4 out of 5 stars, a wonderful production, an important musical, and a reminder that sometimes classics become classics for a reason. But now I want to hear from you. Have you seen this national tour, or have you seen a different production of The Sound of Music? And where does it rank among your favorite classic musicals? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoy theater, musicals, and behind the scenes coverage from Southern California, don't forget to subscribe and follow me across my social media as Behind the Encore. And thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you behind the Encore.